All right, next up for EU Masters, we have France versus Poland. Again, casting with Boulevard and Gems for my first TriCast here. Their information will be in the description below if you want to go ahead and check them out as well. And again, just a reminder, there will be a link below as well to my website with other VODs from this tournament and others that you won't be able to find on the YouTube channel if you want to go ahead and check those out. Specifically, there will be a VOD of the Croatia-Germany game, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to go ahead and check out. So if you guys do want to see that, again, head on over to the website. So with that said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into France versus Poland here for another top 8 EU Masters game.
Hey SJW, I got a question for you. So I got a text a couple of minutes ago from someone that's been trying out the Fearsome deck, and they want to know if they're allowed to cut Stygian Onlooker.
No, not allowed. You can go down to 2 minimum. That's it. That's the quota. I think Stygian is just so good against control decks. You know, you have something like a Ruination that you have to play around. It's really good. Now, in this matchup, I'm not going to lie, I think Stygian Onlooker is pretty terrible. It feels kind of bad. But we'll see if Poland's able to come back from having it here in the first hand. We do have some refuel already as well in the Stalker Shadows.
The only downside here is that in this matchup, it's super dependent, I think, on the Shen Fiora basically getting Fiora and Shen.
Yeah, I the key card for Poland here is actually going to be the Frenzied Skitterer. There are a lot of cards in Shen Fiora that are just on the cusp of being able to block Fearsome units, like Shen, Fiora, this Brightsteel Protector, a Greenglade Caretaker that has one, barrier pushed into it. So that Skitterer can suddenly take, upwards of 2 to 3 blockers off the table in a manner that France might not have been anticipating. And unless they have a Genevieve specifically on backup, then that is something that's going to push through a lot of surprise damage. And as you had mentioned, Gems, you need to find Shen and Fiora, or even just one or the other realistically. And we have neither right here. Oh, and it looks like Poland just doesn't respect the Sharpsight, or just doesn't necessarily care about the Callista being killed here, saying, even if you have Sharpsight, I want to kill the unit.
Yeah, you basically want to stop the multiple spells being drawn, right? And then the next couple of turns, you still have a pretty good open attack here, pushing for 4 on the side of Poland. I actually don't mind it at all, because if they have Sharpsight, it means they can't do it when you drop something like a Skitterer. They can't commit to a cheaper +2/+2 to put out a blocker. And you can see on this turn, this looks like a full go wide as much as you can. And there isn't really an answer actually for France outside of just dropping this Brightsteel Protector. Or Greenglade plus Brightsteel is like they have to go for both, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really awkward if you can only get one of these down, but I do think that Poland's going to play another unit here, and I don't think, once you see them go down to 0 mana, you can't afford to try and run out the second Caretaker. Sure, if you really want to, you could block the Spiderlings that are coming out of the Elyx and take the 7 damage, go down to 10, and then set up for better blocks with the Caretakers in the future. But I do think if you go for the Protector here, it does shut off a decent amount of the aggression on the side of Poland. You could even, if you are so inclined, take a value trade onto one of the Spiderlings with the Brightsteel and then block the Elyx or this Arachnoid Horror with the Greenglade.
Yeah, really strong start for Poland here. And like you said, Gems, needing that Fiora to come down. Fiora is so crucial in this matchup, being able to pick off things like the Elyx, like the Spiderling, also get towards that level up. We also don't see any combat tricks in hand, so even if we do get something like the Fiora, not great ways to really utilize her as of yet. I mean, we do have the Brightsteel Protector, and this Relentless, without being able to develop a board with something like Fiora, Relentless not going to be doing anything for at least the near term anyways. So we'll see how France is able to deal with what looks to be a pretty decent sized attack coming in here, and this Brightsteel I think is a solid way to start. Yeah, this should line up actually 2 Fearsome blockers. So really not going to take as much damage as you'd want. As the Fearsome deck would want to be putting on to France right now. Are we going to... All right, actually going for the value trade. This is always risky, going for value trades against aggro decks, because I feel like you always end up kicking yourself later because that 1 damage ends up really mattering later on in the game. So we'll see if it pays off here for France.
Yeah, my only issue with taking that is you actually don't mind there being a lot of spiders on the board. Your only worry, I believe, would have been an Elyx spell coming down here for 1, but even then, you're in a bad position if you blocked it or not. So I don't know. I feel like going for the value. I mean, you want spiders in the board because then your opponent has way more non-fearsome attackers in general. And if they had the Elyx spell, they have the Elyx spell now, and they level up Elyx either way.
I'm kind of curious too on the side of Owiiii or on France. I'm wondering if there's Spirit's Refuge in this deck. If you're taking a value trade like that, I got to assume there's probably a way to get some lifesteal here. I mean, we have the River Shaper to get some additional spells too, so you might feel a little bit safe with that. But again, still risky. I mean, we're at 12 here on turn 5, and it's looking like we're going to be going into what is a pretty big attack turn coming up here on turn 6 for Poland. Wow. Holy Jesus.
Yep. That's going to be a big attack turn.
Yeah, so Stygian Onlookers, Boulevard, they might actually be getting the job done here. The problem is, and I always say this about this deck, it feels so good to have a hand like this, and then you look at the board and you remember, oh, the rules of the game say I can only have 6 units in play at once. What the heck? So that feels a little bit bad sometimes, but I think overall, Poland going to have a really big turn next turn and going to do a really good job getting off to a good start here versus France.
They are going to run into the Genevieve, at least in terms of getting an additional blocker online in this River Shaper, but it is a little awkward because I don't think you get a big Stygian turn here because you have to commit a unit in order to turn on the Nightfall. And maybe you do just throw out an onlooker and then overwrite your Spiderling and you know, that empty board space with the other 2 onlookers, but you know, if you can actually get to a point where you can get down the Skitterer post Genevieve, you know, take an additional blocker off the field in the River Shaper, it's going to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and there's the Harrowing again, which is, I feel like in the Shen Fiora matchup, a pretty dead card because they run 3 copies of Deny, most likely, in their deck.
Yep.
And there's nothing else to use it on. There's literally nothing else to use it on.
Yeah, pretty snap Genevieve there. Makes sense. And it looks like both players have already kind of figured out how this turn's going to go. That Stygian Onlooker coming out. And Boulevard, I got to agree. I think that the Frenzied Skitterer is going to be great here. Looks like we are going to overwrite this Spider token. If he overwrites something else, I got to say, there's been some questionable overwriting as of late. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I would imagine this is going to be the Skitterer overwriting the Ephemeral Onlooker as well.
Yes, yep.
But, I mean, there's still...
actually? Is it
it's the 2-1.
Okay.
But that does mean, you know, there is still a single combat and 3 useful blockers rather on the side of France. I don't think they're in any danger of dying this turn necessarily. It's a matter of how much of a board is Poland going to be left with, and even France left with after the fact, because Poland has much better top decks in terms of finding units to push through that last little bit of damage. France going to already kind of loaded up on spells that require you to have units to be useful.
Yeah, this is definitely coming down to the wire, though. This is dangerous for Poland because this is going to push damage, but honestly, not a terrible field on the side of France. It feels really bad. Playing Frenzied Skitterer, it's like, it feels so good getting multiple units down below Fearsome blocker level, and only getting 1 unit, thanks to the Genevieve, below Fearsome feels really, really bad. Now we can see, it looks like we're only going to push maybe 7 or 8 damage.
Only 7 or 8.
Yeah, but this
8 when your HP is at 10.
Well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say
only.
I was gonna say only less, but it looks like right now, anyways, the blocks are getting lined up on these smaller targets and not these 4/1 Stygian Onlookers, which I imagine that the single combat's gonna come out to actually kill one of these as well.
Yeah, and we're actually playing more for the board. You know, we do have this Green Glade Collector that is actually just taking a value block onto a Mistwraith. I'm a little surprised to see the Elyx going to be the one that lives here rather than going for the River Shaper single combat and leaving that Doom Beast up as a non-fearsome attacker.
Yeah, you're not really scared of the non-fearsomes in this matchup.
Yeah. It definitely seems weird to me that we went for the single combat on those targets, rather leaving the Elyx alive, not getting the... I mean, you still get the spell draw, but, you know, just leaving up an Elyx rather than a Doom Beast.
I mean, we do have a riposte in hand, so we're going to have another fearsome blocker on this Caretaker here once it gets used. We even have Sharp Sight to bring something else up as well, but these 2 deny, hovering on the side of France. I mean, yeah, we know it's going to stop this harrowing, which might be what Poland's going for, but... You know, I think, Gems, you mentioned it earlier. As Poland, I don't know. You can't actually just rip a harrowing next turn, can you? Like, I just feel like you always get blown out by deny. Yeah,
I mean, you are at 20. If you're gonna draw, if you are playing something like 2 or 3 harrowing or even an atrocity, you might need to play to that top deck just by, because what else is gonna bait out the deny in this matchup, right? It is reserved solely for the harrowings, and that doesn't mean that you never get to play harrowing. It means that it just plays deny spot check.
And France just passing it back over there, which I imagine this is going to prompt a Mist Wraith summon from Poland. It looks like that is going to be the case. Mist Wraith's now up to 3 total attack. Not the biggest.
Really not a lot.
Yeah, not the biggest. But we do have a Risen Mist in hand. So we could be going for a Risen Mist open attack next turn prior to the Harrowing, if that's the case. And then, as per usual, you want to try to use the Harrowing as your last-ditch effort.
Yeah, but that gets super shut down by Riposte. Because then both these Bright Steel Caretakers can actually just block.
Yeah, you do still get to push through 3 damage, as you will have 5 units to the 3 blockers, and there's no, combat tricks in terms of single combats or concerted strikes looking out of France right now. It looks like they might go for the kill onto the Elyx.
You could just lose everything this turn with Sharp Sight and Riposte.
Yeah, this scout attack, I think, is going to get some work done here. Do you...
I mean, this is going to force harrowing, right? Poland's going to go for harrowings. France is going to hit the deny button, and then they're just going to win. I feel like this is exactly... I feel like there is no other lines here for Poland, really. They're going to be forced, unless they top deck, Stalking Shadows into double Wraithcaller?
Yeah, it's really their best bet at the moment, but I don't even know if that's necessarily going to be enough.
Or double Skitterer, or something along those lines.
Screeching Dragon, pretty good pickup too. And yep, this is going to be the deny, and that's
going to be a huge blowout. I mean, their other option is more Doom Beast, right? That's like their...
I'm looking at the camera trying to see if he's holding back a smile, because this is one of those moments in Legends of Runeterra when you rip a deny on something that's like 9, 10, 11, 12 cost in this game. It's one of the best feelings. The only thing that probably feels better is good old War Mother's Call. That one is definitely a good old Boulevard, all right? That is the
Feel the Rush. Denying Feel the Rush is the same.
Feel the Rush, yep, yeah.
Ruination. So Ruination is also a fantastic one to just deny, especially if you're like Shem Fiora, and you're just like, okay, I'm at like turn 9 or 10. They could have Ruination. I don't care. I'm just gonna fill my whole board out. They ain't gonna have to ruinate. I just hit press deny and win.
Oh man, and it looks like that is what's gonna happen.
That top deck Bright Steel is also gonna just completely shut down anything Poland wants to do here.
Yeah, it's looking like the field's going to get cleared on the side of Poland, which means even an open attack going into Poland's next turn with both Risen Mists is not going to be enough. And only one Doom Beast. Is there... I mean, technically, there's a world where we top deck a Stalking Shadows and play 3 Doom Beasts in one turn.
And then one of them gets denied.
Oh, yeah, and then we actually can deny the skill. So not even that is going to get...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just dead to Relentless Pursuit here.
Yeah. And just actually going to play these here, and yeah, it's going to be game, it looks like.
It's going to have to develop some blockers, but I think there's going to be enough damage left on board. Yeah, that's going to be 8 pushed here. Probably not lethal, unless you proactively went for a Sharp Sight here, but I think the Doom Beast would be enough to keep Poland in this, at least for another turn. Definitely doesn't win, though.
I'm going to go on to limit agree. There's... actually no top decks now. Technically, I guess Alan probably wants to go ahead and draw another Harrowing, but that doesn't matter. We have another deny.
Yeah, I don't think France is going to get so greedy that they deny the Doom Beast ability here, since they are not representing lethal, even if that 2 health is negated.
That would be wacky, huh? Nope. Yeah, I'm gonna let that through.
Look, I will tell you right now, SJW, we have seen some throws.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to lie. I agree. Yeah, and pushing another 8 damage through here means that we are down to the last top deck. And because Harrowing is off the board thanks to this deny in France's hand, I do think that means France...
Okay. Ooh, oh, man. I was about to say, if it was a dud top deck like Sharp Sight, then Stalking Shadows into Wraithcaller would have actually been lethal for Poland.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is another one, yeah, because that would have actually been 4 units on board.
Yeah, all of them with 4 attack, and the denies and the Sharp Sights don't protect against that in any way from France, but it is just going to be a lone Doom Beast.
Can't
Yeah,
even
that's
get
just
the
not
Nightfall
that's just not
effect.
enough.
Nope.
They needed the other option was Stalking Shadows into double Doom Beast, but with the deny, you could still stop you with a France would 100% still been safe.
All right, boys, pop quiz. What is the name of Doom Beast's ability?
Great. I have no idea.
Oh, I feel like I should know this. I play it enough.
How often do you how often do you hover it though, right?
Not
Never.
often. Yeah, not often.
Literally never.
It's even like every ability in the game. It's honestly not a lot of times you end up seeing it. Is that right in chat? Is chat correct?
It is correct. It's Torment.
Hey, there we go. Oh, that would have been a perfect poll question, Boulevard. What are you doing to me? If you get any cool ideas like that, shoot them over. I can poll everybody. We all know I'm gonna fail that quiz every time. Let's be real, Boulevard. Come on. Torment.
We got to start upping our game, man. We got to start learning ability names. I remember.
I know some, but
league casters tweeting out that like, yeah, I'm on my way to this event, so I'm on the plane, like on the Wikipedia page for League of Legends, like trying to learn Urgot's W name.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. League of Legends abilities. There is a ton of those, man.
There's like 400 or 520 of them or something because there's 140 champions.
And then you have their passives.
Yeah, man. It's like, what is that? 700 abilities.
Oh man. Well, all right. That's gonna be France taking it there, game 1 over Poland. We're gonna be hopping into game 2 here in just a moment. And yeah, so beating out the Fearsome deck, which I think generally speaking, especially if you're playing Spirit's Refuge in the Fiora Shen barrier deck, I feel like Fiora Shen has the advantage in that matchup outside of, you know, just getting the perfect curve in the early game for the Fearsome deck. And as Gems has mentioned a bunch of times as well, you know, the denies in that deck just absolutely shutting down things like the Harrowing, or if they are playing Atrocity instead of Harrowing, which there could also be Atrocity in there, also shuts down Atrocity. So I really just think that Ionia in that matchup just usually favored.
Yeah, it is favored in general, but again, you could end up with one of those opening hands, which is just full of spells and no units. Champion just
happens a lot.
Has a history of that happening.
It's weird because you think of it as like this super consistent, safe deck, but so many times like you need to draw a mix of units and spells, which doesn't sound like a tall order, but I mean, we've seen that deck play dozens of times at this point. It really doesn't always work out like that. How are we feeling about this last game potentially coming out? Here we are on match point for France. You know, what are these players going to line up? There's a good chance that we see a mirror match. Plenty of those still left on the table.
I feel like it's a little bit awkward for Poland because I feel like the decks they did want to play got banned out.
I see Spooky Karma on there. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, they could still be. They still could pick Spooky Karma.
I mean, yeah, I would definitely say because Poland's comfort decks got banned and we're left with standard on the table, that's all that France plays, right? Like France should feel favored if we're playing standard versus standard.
Yeah, there's a line where we end up with Spooky because Alan wants to play, or the TF go hard, I think is the next line. But the problem is those two could do kind of a bit miserable into Tom Soraka.
I think that because Poland played Fearsome in game 1, I don't think France can play Tom Raka or Anivia this game. Because if you run that back into the Fearsome deck, that is a disastrous matchup for France.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably why Poland went for the Fearsomes to begin with, because they felt like their odds overall were pretty good. It's pretty okay, I guess, I mean, it's not great into TF GP go hard, because if they have packy bags, you just lose, but you can count it. It's not like they're magically going to be able to play 3 straight on the stack, so you can play around it a little bit, and you can just hit them quicker than they can even develop a pack your bags.
Now, I feel like Tom Kent Soraka, if Poland doesn't go for Fearsomes, I think Tom Kent Soraka might be a pretty good choice. Do you ever think Poland's going to go for Fearsomes back-to-back here?
A lot of players tend to run back the same deck that they lost with in game number 1, saying, okay, you know, like I ran into the matchup that I didn't expect to see. This is still the right choice. Let me run it back. And because it has happened so much throughout the tournament, I think France, at the very least, has to keep in mind that there's a very good chance that Poland, it is more likely, seemingly, that they play the Fearsome deck than any other deck.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to see Tom Kent Soraka played in this particular tournament. You know, I haven't really seen a lot of it as of late. Like we said, Cephalopod was originally running it, has stopped, and I'm just curious to see how it does in some of these matchups. Spooky, I would not even, for once, be mad if we saw a Spooky Karma deck get played, because it's been actually that long since I've seen it get played.
Yeah, Go Hard versus Lee Sin.
Go, yeah.
Okay. I feel like Lee Sin should be okay in this, right?
I've talked to a couple players about it. Most of them seem to think that this is extremely one-sided in Lee Sin's favor, and then others have said that those guys are crazy and this should be an auto win for Gohard. Personally, I feel like, Lee Sin would be the favorable deck in this matchup.
I mean, how does the deck... I mean, the only way that I feel like the Gohard deck kind of wins here is if they go wide really early with a bunch of small units and just keep chipping damage, right?
It really...
That's kind of it, because the second Lee Sin slaps down on the board, how do you deal with Lee Sin? You don't.
Well, you have like crumbles and stuff to go ahead and remove it, and if you run into a bastion, you have pings like Gohard. I mean, there's ways for the deck to deal with it, but I think it's really dependent on the way that the decks are built. So are there going to be multiple copies of Bastion in the Lee Sin Zed deck? Are there going to be maybe even additional pings outside of Gohard in the Gohard deck? Maybe you actually see a Vile Feast or something like that just tossed in there. So, there's a lot of different ways, I think, to run both decks. Crumble as well, not always necessarily a 2 of, sometimes only one copy of Crumble. Same thing with Vengeance, same thing with Ruination. So lots of things to take into consideration there, I think, with both ways that both decks are being built.
What a hand here from Poland. They've already mulliganed, right?
Wow.
That's post mulligan here that we're looking at.
Wow.
That's not a great look.
Wow. Well, it depends how you look at it. We can start shuffling in a lot of Gohards and then draw them all.
So here's my question: if let's say that France absolutely stomps this game, does that mean that Lee Sin beats Gohard, or does that mean that this is Alan's EQ in tournament?
I feel like this is just hands because of the hands. Look at the player starting hands. On the side of France, we have Mountain Goat, Eye of the Dragon, and Lee Sin. I mean, on Zed, sorry, and even Mentor if they want to. And on Poland, a deck which has loads of cheap draw and removal units, having just spells and salvages.
But there's 2 Gohard and 2 salvage. It is very possible that we get this Gohard train rolling really fast here. So that is, I think, a way for Alan ZQ to get out of this one and Poland to get out of this one. We'll see if that actually is going to do much, because on the flip side, a Zed with a Mentor of the Stones and Deep Meditation. We have lots of tools in our hand right now. I don't know if Poland's going to be able to survive through this early game here of this Zed to even make it to those turns, being able to draw Pack Your Bags.
Yeah, the part here that's important is they're using double Gohard here on Mountain Go. Zed slaps down on the board. They only get 1 draw, so they have literally no way of stopping the Zed outside of just having unit to block it.
Yeah, that seems... Wow, all right, there's another Gohard already.
Yeah, they're already going to have Pack Your Bags online with 6 Gohards in deck. We do have the deny though, and as you had mentioned, no answer for the Zed, and we don't even have to deny the Pack Your Bags. We can just Bastion the Zed.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. I wouldn't be upset around that.
We're kind of pushing 8 damage on the following turn. Alan still needs to find a unit to have any kind of horse in this race.
Yeah, we do have Ruination as well. If we do get that Bastion out of the Zed, obviously the Zed will then survive through Ruination. That's even if we make it to that turn. I mean, we need to make it all the way to turn 6 to even consider playing Ruination. And that seems like a tall task right now for Poland. Really, man, really unfortunate first hand. We'll see what's drawn with Salvage, though, next turn.
Look at this. Triple Gohard in the opening hand. It's unideal.
See, and this was what I was talking about. This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday, Boulevard, where it's such a fine balance.
Oh, boy. Zenith
Gohard.
Blade.
Oh, and Zap.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Wow.
The question is, does Poland even slap down the Zap? You don't, right?
No. You have to play as mana efficient as possible here. And there it is. There's Pack Your Bags on turn 4, ladies and gentlemen.
And the question is, I as long as France doesn't get jumpy and commit the Zenith Blade here, I don't think they can lose this game.
You can play Eye, right? And that's it. You still have enough mana.
Oh.
I like Eye here, because then if your opponent has Pack Your Bags, you have Deny.
Oh, no, France.
Oh, wow. And Alan's eyes just lit up. If you look at the picture, he's like, that's my chance. I'm going in. And I don't see why we don't see Pack Your Bags here. This is the chance, I think.
Nopify is you're still worried about.
Yeah.
You can't play around that at this point. Your hand's garbage. You can't.
Yeah, the Nopify is going to be exclusively saved for Pack Your Bags. If they have it, they have it. You have to just run this out. I actually like I was gonna say I like Pack Your Bags into the Dreadway Deckhand, just so that we have a glimpse beyond target in this keg, whereas I don't think the 1 damage being pushed is really all that relevant. Maybe just playing around something like Guiding Touch. I believe Zed is... No, Zed's only at 5 HP even.
Yeah, I don't know why. I got to agree with you, Boulevard. I feel like playing the Deckhand after would have been better. But yeah, there's going to be the go hard. And now suddenly this game, very much anybody's game at this point, I think now. I mean, Alan ZQ and Poland still have a little bit of ways to come back in this, but I mean, things are looking up.
So what that did was it said France doesn't auto win. Now we have to play a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just top deck another.
Wow.
Just top deck another Zed.
Yeah,
another Zenith blade.
It does get the Gangplank to sort of stop that at the very least, because there is no Pale Cascade or buffs on the side of France. But I mean, if you're France, do you just go for the attack and say, actually, I do have Pale Cascade. Please don't block with Gangplank. That's a very reasonable bluff.
The thing is, if you play Gangplank, you generate a keg, right?
Yeah. So you could even just drag that with the Zed if you really want to.
You just drag the keg, and then you're in a pretty okay spot.
Yeah.
You can play Zenith here, which I wouldn't mind, because then you're doing Overwhelm straight through.
I don't think there's any way for France to sort of misplay this one again and get packed your bags again. I mean, a lot of the sort of refuel has already been used by Poland. Granted, most of their deck is go hards at this point. I believe there's 5 in there.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, and we already have another go hard in hand and plenty more draw. So I do like what France is doing here, though. We saw, so as you mentioned earlier, they kind of overextended playing that initial Zenith Blade and fell right into that pack your bags, unfortunately, and that was really the only way Poland could get back into it. But they're still sticking with that aggressive strategy, and I do like that, going all in on that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I also love top decking Zed the turn after my Zed dies.
Yeah, that does help as well.
It definitely felt like France got pretty lucky there, and I mean, is it really unlucky to open double go hard in this deck? Is that not what your deck is named after? Is this not what you want to see? I mean, obviously, yeah, in this specific circumstance, you would have loved to have a wide board of units, and that is the way that I think that you want to play against this Lee Sin deck. And this Ruination almost certainly never going to get any value. You don't even see Poland holding the mana to threaten it.
Yeah, and what'd you do here? Did you just take 10?
I don't think blocking with my units really represents anything. Even if you line up the blocking Glimpse Beyond, you're still taking the full damage, but it looks like we actually are going to play the preservation of life total game.
No Glimpse either.
Yeah, I mean, Glimpse, you might as well just not blocked if you were going to Glimpse.
Yeah, okay. Well, and we have the 2 mana banked into turn 6 here, so we could get Gangplank down. We have, you know, that would increase the power of Go Hard here, getting that additional keg. Nothing to kill right now. That's on the field, though, unfortunately.
But you just lose, right? I'm just starting to think, how France actually gets out of this? A keg is not enough.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is going to be enough. I'm sitting here looking at this go hard. Like, how many can we pack your bags this time? I don't even think the answer to that question was yes. And even then, I mean, we do still have the Bastion on the side of France, but you know, they've shown a willingness to just not leave that card open, even when pack your bags is already online. So they would certainly fall for it if you went for it the other way around. But yeah, as you guys have mentioned, I don't think Poland's going to be able to find a way out of this one. I think they are going to get a little bit of value out of this go hard. I do think the Mentor is going to come down on this turn, as nothing on 3 mana and no go hards played is going to threaten the Zed.
Yeah, it's literally just pack your bags is the only thing that threatens Zed here.
But I do believe that is going to be lethal on the following turn for France, as the the one shadow definitely going to go through unblocked, and you know, with all the gems and the Pale Cascade, should just be a lethal attack.
I wonder if he's I mean, Glimpse Beyonding anything doesn't really help. You still have that 1 mana. You're not going to be able to play anything, and I don't think anything at burst or fast speed is going to help you either. Maybe they're going to open attack anyway, so Vengeance is not going to really help either, because you're still
Denied to Bastion and deny in hand from France.
There's too many responses from France. From France. There's just too much going on right now, and I think Poland had a valiant effort, you know, that comeback, getting that pack your bags quick, but it's all going to be for naught here as we see this overwhelmed Zed looking to come in next turn.
Yeah, you can even Bastion on the Zed beforehand, right? So even the Shadow has a Bastion.
Do we ever? All right, let's see. France is gonna top deck a unit and throw the game. Here we go.
Notify.
Wow, that's
You Bastion here, right? And then they just, I don't think there's anything
So
Poland can do.
Bastion here, what gets you 8 attack on that? Okay, yeah, it is still lethal. I just wasn't sure how much it actually was because the Gangplank is going to represent a blocker. That does take 5 damage off the board, and with the heal on the go hard, I think you're actually pretty close to exactly. The Poke Cascade should shore this up, though, if nothing else, and yeah, just going in for the full suite of attacks. And
Poland,
yeah, pretty
packing their bags and heading home.
You're so funny, Jim.
The first, wow, was that the first pun of the day? It took us long enough.
I was really, kind of hoping we could go for a world record and go more than 2 hours without a pun, but not today, everybody.
Just under. Yeah, and I think, Alan running through everything, Poland trying to figure out if there's a way they can get through this turn, but it doesn't look like it. Even if you play something like Salvage, there's nothing. You have 9 mana that leaves you 5 mana. There's nothing you can actually pull from your deck.
I think if Poland was actually thinking, they would snap fire off the Salvage to see what options they're actually going to have, because Glimpse Beyond isn't going to resolve until after you're dead. Any considerations that you would have about living this turn start with the Salvage. You can sit here and speculate all you want about what you could draw, or you could just play the card and see what you do draw, and then figure out if it's going to get you out of it. But the answer is no, and France is going to be moving on to take on Spain in the semifinals tomorrow.
Wow, so France and Spain going to go head-to-head there in the semis. All right, France taking it there versus Poland. And again, I don't think this was much of a surprise for most people. France, an absolute stacked team. Honestly, my favorite to win the tournament. So I'm really hoping they're able to go all the way here and take home EU Masters. I love me some Elyx and Owiiii and just that whole team, PCS in general. Flaxeau is the third player on the team there. I've dealt with all of them before. We did the PCS Invitational that previously, I think it was over the summer actually, and just awesome people over there in France. And I'm about to move to France. I'm about to become a France native, all right? So peace out, everybody. I'm leaving. But as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and actually, peace out.